Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my November 2019 horoscope report for you. This month we have double the sweet aspects compared to the salty ones, and when that happens, it sets a mood for the general transits that's harmonious and happy. And we have Mercury retrograde, and Mercury in retrograde brings things from the past back into the forefront. So when we have the combination of sweetness in the stars and Mercury retrograde, it tends to bring sweet things from the past, happiness from the past, projects from the past, and even work that was done in the past coming to fruition or outcomes coming in a wonderful way. So we have all of that as an increased possibility in store. The mood of the month is very much still dominated by Scorpio because most of the personal planets are putting their energy through that filter, and that means it's a lot of emotional intensity. So it's definitely an emotional month, but it's definitely a good sign that there are more sweet aspects because the chance for breakthroughs are much more likely when that happens. We have Sag energy starting to dribble in, and so Sagittarius tends to show us the light at the end of the tunnel, especially when it's happening amidst this emotional time. So if you've been moving through an emotional tunnel, the Sag light at the end will start to become more apparent, and towards the end of the month that will get stronger and set us up for the Sagittarius party that is going to happen in December. So the mood will definitely start to lighten throughout the month. Something else huge that we have going on is one of my favorite aspects of the whole year, which is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So we're going to talk about what that can bring in general, and we're also going to zero in on your personal chart to see what field of experience that's going to occur, so you know where extra goodies can be from that aspect. I'll also share that date. I'm going to share with you all of the dates that are challenging, all of the dates that are sweet, so that you can mark them in your calendar. Also, we have eclipse rumblings. The eclipses are going to start showing up in big ways. December and January, we have eclipses, but we can often see manifestations, news, trajectory changes from the eclipses at least 4 to 6 weeks before they occur. That's why I always talk about them early, because here in November, we are very likely to see things coming in from that December eclipse. So I'm going to give you more information about that, a lot of information about the eclipse cycle so you can understand it for your patterns and your storylines. And I'll also, again, zero in on where exactly, what field of experience in your chart you will see this eclipse manifest and what kinds of things I've tended to see go along with that. I'm an astrology teacher, so I always use the charts to show you why things may happen instead of just what may happen. So if you want to learn, you're definitely in store for a wonderful learning experience. You can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, to see many more free blogs. I also have tons of other resources on there, including signing up for my free email newsletter, which gets you a general transit write-up of all the dates, all the aspects that are notable, and what you can expect from them 1 month early in your inbox. And if you love how I teach and you want to learn, you can see my astrology apprenticeship program at anniehelpsyou.com, as well as my other offerings. And definitely check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, a wonderful spiritual companion for anyone who's seeking and who wants to create the life of their dreams. So you can go to radicalprayerbook.com. So let's see what the stars have in store for you. Hello, Cancer friends. Many of the things I talk about will be true for all Cancer placements, but there will be times when I will drill down into more detail, and that will require you to know where you're at in the Cancer spectrum. Our early Cancer placements are the June born, or 0 to 9 degrees, middle, July 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees, and late, around July 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. If you have a Cancer moon or Cancer is your rising sign, this report is for you equally as for the sun placements. The sun chart, the moon chart, and the rising chart, which is essentially the natal chart, are all windows we look out of to see pieces of the total astrological picture. There's always more layers. I always recommend you watch for your rising sign and your sun sign at least. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about has to do with how the general energies of the transits are going to be affecting the Cancer placements. Astrology has an art to it that's in the eye of the reader, and astrology is also a science. And within the science, there's math. The math has to do with the angles that different signs make with each other. And each angle has a different quality and different essences and energies that go along with them. So when the planets move through Scorpio, okay, so we're not looking at this one right now, but Mercury, which is going to be in retrograde this month, the Sun, Mars will be there. As these planets move through, fellow water sign of Cancer, now I'm using the late degree Cancer chart, but what I'm talking about right now is true for all Cancer placements unless I differentiate out something else. Okay, so all month you're going to have kisses from Scorpio placements because they make 120-degree angles, which are the most favorable in all of astrology. They're called a trine. Trines can bring yummy things to you without you even having to do anything. But if you have done things or are doing something, it can enhance the outcomes for you. This month already we have double the sweet aspects over the salty ones. And those are angry eyebrows. And so there's already a lot of sweetness this month in the general transits, but even more sweet for the Cancer placements. Okay, so favorable angles equal more harmony, blessings, support, enhancement. Now, at the same time as the Scorpio planets, which are dominating this month, are doing their thing, we have the personal planets starting to, or already, like Venus, is already moving through Sag. At the end of the month, the Sun will get into Sag. Mercury will eventually also get into Sag. That won't be until December. But as that happens, those angles are 90-degree angles. Okay, 90-degree angles are challenging ones. They're like, I call them the diamond angles because pressure makes a diamond. So diamonds are beautiful and shiny and sparkly and many people love them. But what it took to get them like that was a lot of pressure. So sometimes to release our diamond shiny self, we have to have pressure. And when the planets move through Sagittarius, this applies pressure to the Cancer placements. And actually over the last year, since the end of 2018, you've all been having Jupiter square your Cancer placements. So that has exerted a lot of momentum for change in your life, which I'm sure you have noticed. Many of you will be nodding your head saying, wow, what a year. Also happening at the same time, of course, is the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle, which we are going to get to too. So you've all had an interesting time with a lot of pressures, changes, awesome new things. Basically, energy is giving you the impetus to break out of your safe matrix, but a matrix that you probably were, in many cases, uncomfortable with, or, suffocating in, or something like that. So you'll notice very likely at this time of year, every year, that as the planets move through Sag, you get a little bit uncomfortable. There's a lot going on, sometimes it's overwhelming, overstimulating for you, and that's just kind of like a more superficial manifestation. So when this happens, just take the time that you need within all the holidays, just to take your quiet time, exert your sacred space, and don't be afraid to say no to certain things right now if you really need to just hole up for a little bit. So the two other things I want to focus on this month have to do with one of my favorite days of the whole year, or aspects of the whole year. This happens on November 24th or around there, depending on your time zone. It's the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Okay, so I'm giving you the date of November 24th, but do know that you can feel these goodies in the few days before or the few days after as well. And there are some other aspects going on that you might also feel simultaneously that aren't as sweet, but this is still one of my favorite aspects of the whole year, and that is because Venus gets together with the great expander, Jupiter. Jupiter expands everything it touches. It brings luck. It brings benevolence. And Venus rules love, beauty, money. If you've been watching my videos for a while, then you know about my Grandma Marge. And if you haven't, you're going to meet her right now. Okay, so Grandma Marge, my Grandma Marge, is the epitome of the energy of Venus. So to understand the archetype of Venus, understand my Grandma Marge. Okay, so when I would see her, she would give me a big kiss on the mouth, Italian family style. She would tell me how beautiful I am, how wonderful, give me compliments. She'd give me some money, and she'd pop a meatball in my mouth. This is what would happen every time. And so this energy of being comforted, sustained, abundance, harmony, self-esteem, love, is all the energy of Venus. So when that gets together with the great expander, especially in the, the optimistic, happy sign of Jupiter, or of Jupiter in the sign of Sagittarius, which it rules, then the chances for all those Grandma Marge things are increased for you in any area of your life. Okay, so this can really show up anywhere. But we're going to talk about where it's going to show up because there can be extra goodies there. So for early degree placements and middle and late, the focus is on the 6th house, which we'll talk about in a second. But for you early degree placements, so basically the June born or 0 to 9 degrees, you also could have some extra of this in the 7th house, which is the relationship house. So that's romantic relationships, business relationships, client relationships, so some kind of perfect practitioner to come in, land an amazing client, something like that. So you have that added extra 7th house for early. In this 6th house, we're going to talk quite a bit about because this is also the place where the solar eclipse is going to hit, and we'll get to that. But let's talk about 6th house Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Okay, so getting an amazing job, getting a raise, getting recognized at work, having a solution to some office dynamics that could have been challenging, having a health problem resolved or some news, maybe it's a diagnosis, which in some cases may not be exciting, but at least if you know what you're working with and you get a plan together. But usually this energy will have some benevolence, to it, where even if it's not good news, that there's an answer or at least a relief or something, direction. But in many cases, it could be a health breakthrough. This can also be a new change to your routine. So let's say you're doing something all the time, and then maybe you like it, maybe you don't, whatever it is, but this energy comes in and kind of, breaks you into a new routine. So something cool about your daily schedule. This is also the energy of pets. Diet, pets, health, daily routine, work, office. For those of you who are self-employed, it can be, more business for your work or something else like that. So the eclipse cycle is really important, and I'm actually going to give you a massive amount of information on this right now. So the solar eclipse is going to be at 4 degrees of Capricorn, and this is extra important for Cancers because we're continuing this Cancer eclipse cycle that started in the middle of 2018 and goes to the middle of 2020. That's the other reason why you all have had so many changes in your life, is because the eclipse cycle has been in the polarity that includes your sign. So the eclipse happens between the 25th of December or the 26th of December, something around there, depending on your time zone. And if you're asking the question, why are we talking about this in November? It's because 4 to 6 weeks and sometimes more before an eclipse, you can start to see major news, momentum, information, important pieces coming in, trajectory changes, things like that. From the eclipse, you can see them before. So if you don't know about it beforehand, then you miss it entirely. That's why we have to talk about it now. But what I'm going to share about the eclipses will be in effect very strongly for November, December, January, and even into February. It's eclipse season. Okay, so all early, middle, and late degree placements, again, will have this in the 6th house. But you early degree placements, you could, again, like with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, you may have manifestations in the 7th house. So this is how I'm going to give you all the information that I think will be helpful to you. I'm going to drop in a lesson about this Cancer eclipse cycle. It will list all the dates that these eclipses happened in the cycle so far. It will list all the dates in the future, and so you can see where we are on the continuum. It will also explain just some general things about eclipses and the kinds of things I see happen. Then I'm going to drop in a lesson that's going to be true for all Cancers about sixth house manifestations, about what I see, what I've seen from doing thousands of live readings and teaching astrologers to be astrologers, following these eclipses for a very long time. What I have seen as far as manifestations for sixth house eclipses. Okay, so I'll have a nice tutorial about that. Then for you early degree placements, so again, the June born or 0 to 9 degrees, I will drop in an explanation of what I've tended to see with seventh house eclipses. Okay, so if you're not an early degree, you can just fast forward through that to get to the general transit report, which will include all the dates of all those sweet aspects and all the dates of all those challenging aspects, as well as some information on the very rare transit of Mercury. Also know that if you are an early degree placement, because this eclipse is at 4 degrees, anyone with 4 degree Cancer placements, you will be having a direct opposition with this eclipse, and anyone between 0 and 9 degrees Cancer placements are going to be in the spectrum of the biggest boom from the eclipses. And again, this could be better or worse, but it's basically the biggest effect because it's making a direct mathematical connection. Okay, so I'm going to drop in the general eclipse, Cancer, Capricorn storyline, drop in the sixth house manifestations, true for all of you, drop in the seventh house just for the early. Then after that, I'll talk about the general transits. Okay, so here is my overview for the Cancer, Capricorn eclipse cycles. It's always helpful when we're having an astrological cycle that is relevant at the current time to think back to when it happened before, and also to just kind of understand when it's going to happen again in the future. So the last time the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle occurred was between 2009 and 2011. And the next time it will happen after now, because we're in it now, is between 2027 and 2029. So what I have here, I'm going to give you a quick overview and timeline of this cycle and show you what we still have left to kind of understand the timeline. The reason why it's important to understand these dates is because there is a storyline that is taking place over the time from the beginning of the eclipse cycle till the end. And the themes were introduced around the time, sometimes a little early, before, so around July of 2018 or a little bit sooner. The themes that came up, that are going to come up and be present this whole time, started to come up. And then at the end of the cycle, many of the things will have resolved or shifted or come to a conclusion or whatever that turns out to look like. The reason why I spend so much time and energy in the reports where the eclipse energies are more present is because they tend to bring drama, dramatic conclusions, amazing, brilliant new openings, a shuffling around of energy in a very intense, notable way with major trajectory shifts. And because of this, usually at that period of time, things are going on and people are looking around and saying, what the heck is going on? People around me are going through these massive changes, I'm going through changes, or sometimes you're a space holder for someone else going through changes and not the one having them, but it's like there's something that seems like it's, in the air, and it literally is in the sky, and it is literally down into our experience. So there's this massive shuffling around of energy. So that law that says matter is not created nor destroyed, or can't be created nor destroyed, it simply changes form, is very much evident at eclipse time. So things will be taken away from a certain area, so they'll be eclipsed out, and then energy will be added in to a new area, where these new openings will come as things are crossed out. So that's the typical, just general storyline. So as we get closer, and I usually use 4 to 6 weeks before and after each actual eclipse date as the hot spot, I call it, for the eclipse news. But anything related to any of the themes that are going on for this eclipse cycle can happen during any of this time. It doesn't have to be only right near the hot spots, but the odds are greatly increased that news, events, changes, breakthroughs, openings, closes will occur as we're closer to these dates, and that's why they're important. Okay, so July 2nd, 2018, then January 5th, 2019, and then the most recent ones before now were July 2nd and July 16th. If you want to go back to understand those eclipses and try to make more sense of things that occurred then, you can find the information about what house, meaning field of experience for your sign, the eclipses hit for, okay? So basically, the Cancer Capricorn polarity brings tendencies for certain changes to all signs, and they would have to do with the energy of Cancer and the energy of Capricorn. So every sign has had an increased chance of a lot of shuffling around, notable changes, drama, conclusions, new beginnings in the house of home and family, and in the energy of work and your place out in the world, and the dynamic and push and pull between those places, and energies of mother and father and parenting and maternal energy and paternal energy and your inner authority, your outer authority. Every sign has been having storylines from this eclipse cycle in those polarities. But when it's eclipse time, I also drill down into the houses that they occur for each sign. And that gets even more specific about how it affects you when you were born, what your rising sign is, what your moon sign is. You can look at these reports to drill it down even further. Okay, so for the July eclipse, if you look at my June report, and this is 2019, you can get more insight into that. And then for the July 16th eclipse, again, these happened already, but sometimes retrospectively going back to have understanding is helpful. You can see my July 2019 report for that. Now, bringing us to the present time, we're in the November report, and I am going to be talking about this December 25th eclipse. Depending on your time zone, that might actually happen on the 26th, but in either case, it's at 4 degrees of Capricorn. So to follow this general drop-in, I'm going to show you where in your personal charts this eclipse is going to hit and what things you can expect with that. Then probably the December report I'll devote to talking about Jupiter moving into Capricorn. There is a chance I might talk about the January of 2020 eclipse in the December report, but I'm not sure yet. So, check out the December, and then definitely know by the January report I will be telling you where this January 10th eclipse will be hitting for you. And then the last eclipse has happened. So you see I have these kind of grouped this way because this is one set, and then this is the last set here, June and July of 2020. So those dates will end out this whole cycle, and things that began here will be getting wrapped up, moving along. And so you can kind of understand that where we're at. So the story in many cases is not done yet. Maybe there will be some kind of conclusion or final chapter that occurs, and then maybe, these ones here are the integration time or follow-up things or something like that. But for the most part, we're in a storyline that's still in process. And regardless of the finality or the occurrences that happen at this time, probably we're going to need until the end of this cycle in order for us to see the conclusion of the story that we are almost done with. So now I'm going to show you the charts of your particular sign and show you what houses or fields of experience this December 25th, 26th eclipse is going to occur, and what themes specifically you can expect with that. Eclipse time tends to bring drama, fruition, major changes, major trajectory shifts, things that are surprises, things that are, moving along a continuum that you've been working on, so a major fruition. So basically, it's a very active time of change and emotion. When there's an eclipse in the 6th house or in Virgo, health is a very big focus. For some people, this will actually result in a health crisis. If there's something that's been undercover that has not been in the light or that you have not been aware of, sometimes that can be brought to light. For others, it could be movement along a continuum of the health practices or of diagnosis or of solutions or something where there's something notable. Finding of a perfect practitioner, doing labs or diagnostics, and getting into a healing or wellness routine. So anything having to do with finding a new practitioner, whether it's in the mainstream path or the alternative path, finding a new modality has a major impact, finding a new, practitioner. And this can also have to do with one's own wellness path turning into a practitioner path. So you stepping into wellness as a practitioner, because this house and this sign also rules work, your vocation. It's partly related to the vocation. And if you are in any of those lines of work, medical, alternative, or mainstream, then work can be highlighted as a major sector, major closings in your work of how you do your work, major openings in how you're shifting into the next level of your work, if you've already started this process. New gym memberships, new diets, things that rule your daily experience in yoga practice. Yoga is in here, meditation, acupuncture, all of that. Surgeries, any kind of procedure that's medical. Getting into the details of a bigger picture. So this time often will give you a download or a necessity from the outside or an impetus from the inside to start to work on the details and get a system together for your life, like even where you put your keys when you come in, how you do your maintenance on your vehicles and home, just everything, the systems on which everything in your life runs, those can be called into question and brand new routines can come. I see this happen or manifest a lot in either moving or a temporary lodging or going somewhere else or changing a job or, something major happening to your life where what your daily routine is changes in a big way. I also see pets being highlighted at this time. Sometimes a new pet comes in. Sometimes a current pet needs more attention, or you have more time and focus, or you start, a new training regimen with them, or something related to pets. Your pets could have some symptoms, and definitely at this time it would be important to follow up with those things because things undercover tend to come out at this time. And sometimes there's a transition for a pet. Whether it's going into a different home or whether it's, transitioning out of body. So things involving pets and other animals. Sometimes people who work with animals will see, this manifestation show up along those fronts. People in the veterinary field, people doing healing work, equine therapy. And again, there could be this thing having to do with you wanting to do your wellness for work and moving along that process. One of the most important things at this time is to not ignore your symptoms or your pet's symptoms. Symptoms in eclipse season are showing us the things that are brewing undercover, and paying attention to them and being proactive could make for an easier process and even better outcomes. Decluttering and organizing in a big way, like doing some sort of major process. One of my favorite resources for this is The Magical Art of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. She also has another book called Spark Joy. Things like that, where there's a system for organizing your life. And she talks about organizing your things in these certain ways. She has a method where you'll never have clutter again if you stick to this. and also helping you to release things, like the process by which you release things, judging on whether they spark joy for you or not. So bringing clarity and coherence to your surroundings is a big piece of this. And, there are many ways that can happen. There could be someone or something in your environment that is bringing less coherence. And they could be, that could be eclipsed out, or something could be shifted, or you could have a major inner shift that could drastically change how you structure your external environment. Supplement regimens and other daily practices, including spiritual practices, can also come in a big way during a 6th house or Virgo eclipse cycle. So someone could find a meditation practice and really get into it, or go deeper into it, or anything like that, where it could come in a big way if it's brand new, or it can end and shift into something else. Anything that has to do with our daily experience. Eclipses are major astronomical events, and they're also major astrological events. They bring things into the focus in a major way, and although sometimes during eclipse cycles, certain individuals are not as notably or obviously affected, but sometimes these changes are more subtle, and we have to look harder to see that there's a paradigm shift at play, or something else working in the inner realms that aren't necessarily manifest in a huge way. A lot of how we experience an eclipse will depend on the exact degree of the eclipse sign and how that interacts with our placement. So it's very complex, but certain things are very common, which is an increase in focus on the field of experience that the sign or house rules. Drama, for better or worse, dramatic conclusions, brilliant new openings, or movement along chapters, closing of a chapter, opening of a new chapter in certain areas. So when there's an eclipse in the 7th house or Libra, one of the biggest things is relationships. A new relationship comes in, an old relationship ends, or even a new relationship ends, beginnings and endings of relationships, or movement along a continuum of key relationships, or the relationship to relationship. What comes up a lot at this time is the topic of codependency. Codependency extends beyond even what the AA definition was, and the way that codependency was originally defined was that there was an alcoholic or a substance abuser, they were the addict, and then the codependent was the person who kind of had to dance around the erratic nature of living with someone who's an addict. But then, of course, things get more complex because a lot of people who have addictions also have codependency issues where they draw in other people who have problems. And basically, the main point the way I define codependency is that it's a boundary disease or a boundary issue. And so eclipses in the 7th house or Libra tend to bring up boundary topics. Are you setting too many boundaries and blocking out intimacy that you want? Are you not setting enough boundaries? Are you setting boundaries in a way that you're going to get what you want? Or are they from fear? Are they from old programming? The question of boundaries is one of the biggest things that I see coming up. So, movement along in gaining what I call interdependence, where, yes, we need other people, we need to interact with other people. It's part of being human to connect with others. But how we do that, and the fulfillment that we have or don't have, the patterns that we brought with us into our current relationships that we have to or get a chance to own, so being really accountable at this time with owning what made us be attracted to a certain type of person or a certain type of situation, and doing the inner work to be able to shift our vibrational magnetism for certain types of situations rather than just blaming another person. Eclipses in the 7th house or in Libra also often bring in perfect practitioners or helpers. So or bring endings to those relationships. So maybe you've been working with a practitioner for a while and you complete your work with them, or maybe you've had someone working for you or you've been working with. So, agreements about working together with someone can come to an end. It can come to a fruition, like you reach the goal or the objective. Or you can have a new practitioner or a new helper come in. This time is really great for finding people to help you in any area of life, whether it's a counselor or, a mechanic or an assistant or anything like that can, eclipse in or end or change a relationship to those things or with any of those people. And so in general, agreements come in a big way. Coming to an agreement on a topic that needs mediation or is in mediation or where there's a disagreement, there's often notable movement when there's a 7th house or Libra eclipse having to do with agreements between people. Aesthetics and design is another topic that also comes up. So new design projects, new ways of, working your space or working your wardrobe or, artwork or anything like that can come in. So new systems for your aesthetics, redesign, design projects, or if your work is in design, that can be highlighted as well. This time is also really great for movement along if you're trying to build clients, like client relationships. Certain clients could be eclipsed out, or certain ways of relating to them, or how you go about interacting with them. So that's also included in the relationship space. So in general, the 7th house in Libra eclipses will feature relationships and your relationship to relationships and any key people in your life and your agreements with them. Anything unresolved in relationships are often going to come up, and anything that's been worked on can come to a magical fruition. Okay, so I'm going to give you the visuals on the general transits that will affect all signs for November 2019. And definitely remember that what I'm giving you here is a summary of some of the things to watch out for. If you want a more complete written list of the general transits that are most notable and the energies and potentials that go along with them delivered into your inbox 1 month early, then definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com. And at anniehelpsyou.com, you can sign up for my free email newsletter. Annie Helps You, that's supposed to say YOU. It's not legible. Then you sign up for my free email newsletter, and I will send you a written report about this general transit energy a month beforehand so that you have it for your planning purposes and you have it, as a visual. Okay, so like I mentioned, the first thing to know about this month is that there are around 12 awesome aspects and around 6 more challenging ones. So whenever we have a month where there's like double the nice ones compared to the challenging ones, then it sets a tone for the month that is super sweet. Now, as I always give this disclaimer, I will give it again. The general transits are just that. They're general. They're happening. This is one layer of absolute truth that is occurring for everyone. But your personal chart, the way the planets are hitting in your actual chart, which we can't see a lot of that. We can see the sun sign, the rising sign in the horoscopes, but there are all these planets here in your chart. And the way that the current planetary arrangements are hitting all of those planets for you could cause you to have a different experience than is the general theme or mood, okay? But now back to, speaking about this general mood, it's super sweet because we have so much more of this sweet aspect energy. The second very important thing to remember, and we'll look at this in the chart, is that Mercury is going retrograde. I talked in detail about Mercury retrograde in October because I always talk about things early because we feel them happening early. So between October 31st or November 1st, depending on your time zone, Mercury is actually going to start its retrograde process. On October 12th, it started its pre-shadow, or its pre-transit shadow period. So every day from October 12th through the 31st, we were going deeper into the energies of Mercury retrograde, which is why I talked about them in the October reports. But now, on these days, it's actually occurring. Okay, so this Mercury is going to go back. Now, again, you see this, we're not looking at, we're looking at not the house configurations for this chart because we're not looking at a certain sign. We're just looking at the mathematical relationships between the planets. So this reading is for everybody. So Mercury is going to go back from 27 degrees of Scorpio back to 11 degrees of Scorpio. And so if you have any placements that are between 27 and 11 degrees, that especially in mathematical, connection to Scorpio, then is going to be more intense for you. And I did talk about more of those details in the October reports for all signs, but just to kind of, have a guideline here. Since it stays retrograde until November 20th, the whole mood of the month has to do with things from the past. Now, some new things can pop through, but there's going to be this strong theme of energies from the past. So I'm calling it sweetness from the past because there's so much sweetness and the energy is tilted, backwards. Now, we also talked about the fact that there are eclipse rumblings, and there are because as early as November, you may start to see some eclipse news come in, but you can definitely look to the sign reports, individual sign reports for November to see where they're going to hit for each of your signs and also have an overview of this eclipse cycle. The days of the sweet aspects, okay, so we'll put our big smiley face here. Okay, so November 3rd, 8th, 9th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 23rd, 24th, 26th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Sometimes the energies from the transits that happen on a certain day can be felt before or after that day. So don't hang your hat too closely to the exact day, but just kind of know that there's a lot of sweetness around the days here. The challenging ones are on the 5th, 11th, 14th, 20th, 24th, and 26th. You notice how sometimes the same day will have either an aspect that could go either way or multiple aspects, one that could be sweet and one that could be salty. You see that happening actually on the 24th too, and also on the 11th. The 24th of November is one of my favorite days of the whole year because it is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And this is very potentially expansive to love, self-esteem, money, blessings, luck, just amazing things coming out of the blue. In this case, since the energies are in Sagittarius, which is, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so there's some extra energy of Sag in this storyline. There's even potential for more luck since Sagittarius rules good luck and expansion and things involving education and publishing and traveling and learning and teaching and spiritual evolution. So definitely put a nice big star in the days around here. Now, do remember, of course, like we talked about, there is also a salty aspect on the 24th and 26th. So those things could also be happening, but this is still a pretty powerful aspect to note. Something else really important to note as well is November 11th. November 11th has an aspect that day. The Sun in Scorpio is conjunct Mercury. Okay, so then that day, this and this will get together and amplify each other's energy, bringing potential intensity for better or worse. But occurring on that same day is a very rare transit of Mercury. Okay, so this only happens around 13 times in a century. And the next times they'll happen will be 2032 and 2039. For your reference to think back, if there was anything notable that occurred for you, the last time this happened was May 9th, 2016. It also happened November 8th, 2006, May 7th, 2003, November 15th, 1999. So sometimes it's really helpful to be able to go back and see if periods of time had something noteworthy for you, because sometimes that can help you better understand how the energy may manifest. So basically with the transit of Mercury, for a short time with a telescope, you can actually see Mercury, tiny, very tiny, crossing over the path of the sun. So that's a pretty cool astronomical occurrence, but it also turns out to be energetically a very cool astrological occurrence. And so, you know, it just can add to the intensity. Mercury rules news and travel and communication and devices for that. So breakthroughs in communication, really big news, really big physical shifts, things like that could be prominent at this time. Okay, so those are the things most on my mind, just to give you a summary of this month of the general transits. Definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com, because you can see more about what I do in that newsletter is all of these dates that I list. I tell you what the aspect is and what kinds of energies tend to go along with them. So I have these all itemized out. Okay, also if you want more information about the month, I do also do written horoscopes at cozybysweetstarlight.com. And they're often talking about different things than I talk about in the videos. Okay, so Cozy by Sweet, this is all one URL, starlight.com. You can get monthly horoscopes, again, around a month early on there to get more information, and you can go to anniehelpsyou.com in order to get more blogs. And actually on Cozy there are also lots of other astrology blogs, astrology for wellness blogs, and other positive lifestyle blogs. And at anniehelpsyou.com I have lots of astrology blogs for the full moon, for the new moon. So I put together lots of things for you to be able to make the most of the energetic potentials. Definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com to check out all of my free blogs. You can also check out my Astrology Basics and Beyond course if you want to learn the basics of astrology. If you want to go into an insane amount of in-depth astrology wonder, then you can check out my astrology apprenticeship program that can teach you how to use astrology for anything from self-development, helping yourself, helping your friends and family, to being a professional astrologer full on. I can help you with that. You can check my course out at anniehelpsyou.com. I also have a coach certification course. I also have a creating successful online business course that teaches you how to create an online presence and funnel that presence into your paid services so that you can roam free as a bird like I am. You can see I'm in a random place recording because I'm traveling and trying to get these recordings done for you. So you can see all of that at anniehelpsyou.com. Definitely check out my husband B.R. Newman's site, iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com. He is going to soon have a tarot companion guide, an astrology companion guide that serve as your helpers in your study process as well, plus other cool offerings that he has there and a lot of free stuff as well. Go to see my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. It has become a beloved bedside companion and purse and card-toting companion to my fellow spiritual seekers, so I have heard. So you can see that at radicalprayerbook.com. If you love my shirt, this was sent to me by an amazing woman, with an artist with a beautiful story. And she creates these awesome astrology design garments and all kinds of other designs as well. So you can see her story. These are also all hand stitched by adults in Canada. So you can check that out in the notes below this video. So when you click on the ... or more, all of my websites will be there. The link to see more about these designs will be there. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye!